magic that we lost somehow. We don't fall like we used to, fly like we used to, try like we used to. I'm here with you for one more night. Smile like we used to, get high like we used to, ride like we used to. Right here with you for one more night. If ever it felt right, careless and wild-eyed, coming undone. Parked on a hillside, stayed up till sunrise. You were the one first feeling. When did we stop believing? We could turn back, we could find that magic that we lost. We don't fall like we used to, fly like we used to, try like we used to. I'm here with you for one more night. Smile like we used to, get high like we used to, ride like we used to. Right here with you for one more night.
You're tuned in to the #1 propaganda-free news source on the internet, YAHAWASHai News Network. I'm your host, Jason of Awake Souls, and I'm joined by the limitless one, Ronnie Harris. How you doing, brother?
Awesome, man. Thank you. It's great to be here this Wednesday evening. We're almost through the end of the week, everybody. We're now on the downhill side.
Downslope. Everything's downhill from this point, right? It's like the ice is tilted downhill, the puck just goes in the net from here on out, right?
Yeah, that's it. It just slides right into the net. Don't even need a goalie.
I wish it was that easy, everyone. We're going to be talking about some difficult things tonight. We've got some headlines to go through that are truly worrisome. In fact, I feel like this might be like a toilet paper warning event. If anybody remembers back to 2020, we were able to let people know in advance to go ahead and stock up on toilet paper because of the psyops that were being run. And with the headlines that are breaking right now, there's another warning that's going to be placed tonight. And it's really going to be a tough one where we can't just tell you to go stock up on TPE or milk or bread or water or something like that. It's going to have to do with money. So we're going to get into that tonight and what's taking place. And the big question is, how are followers of YAHAWASHai supposed to handle an event like this? What is the biblical course? What can you do? And beyond that, where does your faith need to be? What things are we up against? It's going to be a little bit more of a serious matter tonight, but we want people to be prepared for what might be coming. What do you say, brother?
Yeah, well, like you were saying earlier, we were able to let people know well in advance before the whole Cerveza bug thing hit. Everybody that was tuned in was prepared. They were stocked up. They had extra toilet paper. And what we're seeing now is that any dissidents or anybody that's against the government of Canada is now labeled almost like a terrorist, and they can shut your accounts off. They can arrest you. They've got these new sweeping powers with the Emergency Act that's being invoked. And we're against it. It's against all the freedoms of the people. We see a disaster waiting, right? We see the people saying that they're pulling their money out of their accounts. They're anyone that's linked online that had anything to do with the trucker convoy or with anything to do with, any groups that have anything to do with protesting. You've all been, tracked, traced, and labeled. So the whole trucker thing was great. I love how people stood up for freedom. But what they did was they used that as a honeypot so that they could round up all the dissidents.
Yeah, so we're going to be laying down some facts, and then we're going to be laying down some suppositions as well. And it's probably, we don't have a ton of content tonight. I mean, there's maybe like 10 tabs here to go through, but some of them might not take all that long. So, what else before we get into this Canadian fiasco that Trudeau has put people into? Anything else before we go into Fidel Trudeau?
Yeah. No, I've got an update on censorship. So if people don't know, I was one of the first to start getting censored here on YouTube back in 2014 for Sandy Hook stuff. And so I've been dealing with losing accounts and this and that and censorship the whole time. Facebook deleted my account 2 or 3 weeks ago. A almost 15-year-old account. It's gone. That's fine. What would I want off that account? I don't know. Stuff that I wrote in the last 6 months, maybe. I don't know. Memories of my daughter, maybe. But Telegram is the group where we're bringing everybody over to, where we're letting people know this is going to be a backup to everything because it's supposedly censorship free, right?
Yeah, and what's taking place on Telegram for you right now, brother?
So I'm in Telegram jail, right? And where's the bell? So I'm in Telegram jail. So if everybody doesn't know, I get up an hour and a half to 2 hours early every day when I work 9 to 5, and I post truth. I share truth content. I share motivational stuff. Sometimes it's not as pleasant. It triggers people. And I have a steady flow where I'll also create. Jason creates memes. We create content, 4K high resolution content is what we do. And we mix it up and put it out there. And I guess for some reason, my couple of posts in the morning and sometimes a post at night, I was sharing them to multiple groups. And I guess people got triggered and started flagging them. So they just shut my account off. I'm still able to post to the reality check page. The description has the link to that Telegram group. Please go over and subscribe. There's the reality check group, and then there's the reality check chat where you can intervene too. I know Battery 79's there. I see Bronick there. I see so many of the people in the chat. Joseph, I see you guys all there. I'm pretty sure I've seen Joseph there. But it's another place where we can share truth, but there is actual censorship being taken place there. Again, it seems like wherever I go, I'm just hated and censored and taken down and put to the bottom of the feed. It's funny this time with this new Facebook channel. I only got like 2 weeks of being in the feed. They were like, "You're out." And the last thing of the censorship, I posted a meme that said, "Find you a girl who holds on to you like Justin Trudeau's mom holds on to Castro." And then there's a picture of Castro in the bottom looking funny in 2 different images. And they flagged it and said, slap on the wrist. You're now going to be even lower in the feed for another 90 days starting today, which is what they said yesterday, because the meme that I had put forward was misleading and had been fact checked, and that Fidel Castro is not Justin Trudeau's dad. And then it went on to state in the fact checker that Angela Merkel is not Hitler's son, and that who was it? Barbara Bush was not Aleister Crowley's daughter. It went on to state all this nonsense. And I'm like, the meme had absolutely nothing to do with that. It was a joke about find you a woman who holds on to Castro like Trudeau's mom does. That was the joke.
It would have been funny if they just kept going and is like, Trump is not Elvis, and just like just like a
all
list
the death
of like
fakers, right?
yeah,
Alex Jones is not Bill Hicks.
JFK is not.
Jimmy Carter and all these things. Who was the guy in the Doors? Is not Rush Limbaugh, right? Yeah, that would have been even more funny. But just to let you guys know, listen, if you guys are with us and you're fighting for truth and you're sharing information, be prepared to be censored. Right. So again, what we teach is that our battle we wage is not physical. We don't have guns and bombs. We have cameras and microphones and editing tools, but we don't want to physically hurt anybody, albeit we're allowed to defend ourselves and our family. But what the truth of it is through morphic resonance, through the morphogenetic fields that we're all in, emotional, physical, thought-provoking, all these different things. We have a collective consciousness here through that. Now, everybody is their own consciousness created as a creator being, but we're all in this field together. When you put out content, when you stay steady, when you have a good routine, when you're fighting for truth, when you're not telling lies, when you're doing righteous things, you basically ripple out and you affect the entire realm. So if you're having a hard time, if you're not getting the views, I just want you guys to know that you're not alone. We're all in this together, the psyop together, and everything you do matters. And that's what they don't want you to know. What they don't want you to know, the people that censor you, is that you're being censored because you do matter and you're having a huge effect. So just everybody keep going, keep fighting for truth. I know this is a tough topic tonight that we're going to be going into with this whole shutting people's bank accounts off if you disagree with the government. Like, how ridiculous is this, Jason? I'm going to shoot it back to you. I don't necessarily have to ask you a question, but I mean, we grew up our whole lives. We never had to cover our faces ever, never. And we were just fine, especially children. And now that's happening. And we have to have these, things and more things on top of things and to boosted it and more things. And, I just don't understand, how could society have gotten so low?
Here's where it starts to really take a turn for the worse. So the big talk is now, is Justin Trudeau now a dictator, right? Can we throw that label on him? Does he get to wear that badge that he's officially a dictator now? And I guess if this all goes through and he has these powers, yes, absolutely, he is a dictator now. And so what does the first thing a dictator do? He cuts off the funding for the enemy. So his first target is the people that were backing the protesters. So the protesters, in order to be organized and have a bigger presence, right, they were collecting GoFundMe style crowdfunding sourcing, and so that crowdfunding sourcing then can allow a group to do a big thing larger than any individual person could do. So what does the government do as soon as it takes the power and cuts off the source of crowdsourcing funding? What the opposition is doing. So that is in progress right now, and I've got some headlines to go through to show you where we're at in that timeline, how that, what to expect coming up soon, and it really starts to get real. How many times as a truther have you said something like, well, follow the money, follow the money, follow the money? Well, that's happening too. So the people that were sourcing this crowdfunding funds, the government has been following the money. They've been tracking that, and so there was a big data leak on their crowdfunding source, and so now we have everybody that contributed to the protests being a target for the government to come in and freeze their accounts. So we've got the tabs to go through on that. That's when things are really getting serious. And now that this is in process, so notice how when Trudeau, when the government of Canada got to the point where now all of a sudden there was going to be a deadline that you can no longer cross the border without having a certain something, and that's when the wheels hit the pavement. That's when the shoes hit the ground. So that's what started this whole protest thing with the truckers coming to Ottawa, and now we're going to have more of those types of actionable events taking place again. And it's going to have to do around people's accounts, their ability to access their accounts, right?
The new sweeping abilities, like I had warned people 2 weeks ago, the COG government, the continuity of government, short form to COG, is the ability for them to do anything they want. They can bring the military in. The whole entire constitution that did have freedoms that they don't obey anymore is null and void, right? I don't even know at what level Justin Trudeau is still dictator at this point. There might be other people calling the shots, but they're clearly moving in. They're clearly trying to stifle it. You know, there's two ways we can look at it. One, the protests got too big and too out of hand. Or two, it was completely staged to be a honeypot for the people that were against them. Anybody that donated, anyone that had anything to do with any Facebook groups or any YouTubes or Twitters or TikToks, any of this stuff, they've always been tracking it. But see, this is a double-edged sword. If you keep your mouth shut and you don't fight for truth, you're going to be remembered as a coward, right? You're on the wrong team. But if you go down fighting for truth, if they take you out and you cannot buy or sell because of truth, you will be righteously rewarded in the next life to come. So do not be discouraged. Do not have any fear. This is just the beginning, and we're ready. We're not going to back down, and neither should any of you on the other side of the screen.
Yeah, so there is, like Ronnie said, that two-edged sword. There is the possibility that as we cover this information and bring people's attention to this, that we're actually playing into a play that the New World Order wants, right? Sort of in a chess game.
I don't think they want us to play it. They might want other people to play.
Yeah, but just in general, the fact that so chances are they have their entire objective outlined already, and we know where that's going. We know that they want to go to a one world currency, and they want it to be digital, and they want it to be blockchained, and they want it to be biometrically tagged to you, so there's no way of cheating their system, and they have full control over every single transaction that takes place in the world. And if they don't like you, they're not going to let you participate, right?
Yeah, if they don't like you, they want to be able to shut your car off, right? You're not allowed to leave these specific areas because they want the other areas for themselves, and they don't want people mucking it up or going in those areas. They hate humanity, the people that run the realm, right? They're sick, twisted, evil people. And one last thing, that whole cannibal, I don't know if you saw the post, Jason, that I put up on Telegram, but this whole cannibalism
the Disney
stuff
movie, right?
Hey guys, come on. If you can't see what time it is, I don't know what else to say. So again, no fear. Fight for truth is the best way to remedy all of this, and love yourself and love everyone around you. So I don't know if you want to get into a screen share. Like we said, we might not go too long tonight. We're kicking butt, working again for now. Gotta build, gotta work with our hands. So we're a little bit tired tonight, but I'm still really thankful that everybody tuned in, and we're going to continue to always come on live and put out the podcast. This is what we do. It's our passion.
Yeah, Monday crushed me. It was just a day of jackhammering, and I was just coming off a winter break. And yeah, so we're easing back into the secular work schedule, and so probably another week, and then there'll be a little bit of time between jobs again, and we'll probably be able to do more in-depth content during that time period. But yeah,
create some more memes, right? Do you want to do it? Let me know and I'll start talking so you can get ready.
I'm taking us the thumbnail. All right.
So yeah, everybody in the chat, shout out to you, Becca Shine, Joseph, Jerry. Everybody, please pray for YD to get better. She's not feeling well. We need her to get strong. We need her to come back. It's not the same without her. Shout out to everybody here. We got some new people. Dr. Shady Cat Gaming. Thank you for showing up tonight. Mimi, as always. What else do we have? Allison Murphy. Thank you for showing up. And she's right. She says, you also get a lot of bot friend requests. I know I get so many, so many fake Trump people. It's crazy. If you actually look and don't just add everybody. Jerry's always here. We got everybody tonight except for YD, unfortunately. Wish he was here.
Yeah, you've been talking about the phenomenon of the hot Trump girl supporter in the
they're not all hot, but they're all like bikinied up and
Yeah.
they're like model looking. I don't even think they're real people. We think that they're complete bots. They're complete fake. All of them. Shout out to Lisa as well from New Zealand. Keep your heads up down there. Go ahead, bro. Are you ready to go? Or are you presenting?
Yeah,
I see.
I'm into screen share mode already, brother.
Okay, let's do this.
All right, so one of the one of the first things that took place here recently that I noticed, this was a couple days ago, was the names of Canada truck convoy donors leaked after reported. So this caught my attention right away. This is a little bit older news, so let's see, 2 days ago. I know the truthers that follow us. Might have to refresh this. Let's go like there. We should be good now. The people that follow us, I mean, chances are you probably come across this already. But if not, I'm just going to point out that a website devoted to disseminating leaked data says it was given reams of information about donors to a Canadian movement opposed to pandemic health measures after a fundraising platform popular with supporters of the group allegedly suffered a hack. So get down here into some of the details a little bit. In the email on Monday, a Give Send Go spokesman said that the site was still soliciting donations to the convoy, and that donations were not being refunded. And the site, however, appeared to be offline. Website visitors were met with a message. Go ahead.
Yeah, you brushed by that. So they didn't refund them. They kept the money.
Well, so it's supposedly still going to be given to the group, but now the government's stepping in and saying, no, you can't give them. Yeah, and this money's not being refunded. So it's like government seizure.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's insane. It was this terroristic money. These people wanted to donate to a good cause for freedom, right? That's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, peaceful protest. That's what you're supposed to do, right? You're supposed to encourage peaceful protest.
And if people don't work together, like you were saying, crowdsourcing, you can't do any larger projects. They wouldn't have had the bouncy houses and all that stuff, right?
Let's see if this comes through a little bit better for people. So Give Send Go had previously asserted that it was not subject to a Canadian court order that froze these funds. Let's see here. We have this group that's reporting on the hack. They were supposedly the one that received all the information, right? So, all right, the big point of this is there was a hack, and all the names of the people that helped fund this protest, it's all been released, all the names. So how does that affect us, right? So then 1 day ago, we got BBC News. Trudeau vows to freeze anti-mandate protesters' bank accounts. So do you think there's any correlation between the hack 2 days ago and then Trudeau coming out and saying he vows to freeze the protesters' bank accounts?
Yeah, there's a huge correlation there. Look at the picture of him. He's so arrogant. How can a country have such a narcissist? See, this is what you get when you have a realm like we have and a bunch of wicked people rising to the top. You get these sick, narcissistic, twisted, like this is Canadian Psycho. I don't know if you guys seen the movie American Psycho. This is the Canadian version of it. This rich kid, elite, doing what his daddy did 50 years ago, but much worse, following the New World Order agenda, right? Like, I don't understand why we can't just get away from these people. Why can't they just be fired? Move on.
Yeah.
Frustrated.
Seth says the Give Send Go hacker is obviously a government puppet. There's actually...
It was probably them. They probably just gave the information up. Like, come on. The NSA, the CIA, the what do they call it? CSIS, the Canadian Secret Intelligence Service. They have the keys. They have the console to just look at whatever they want online.
Should we listen to this clip here?
Hack is just an excuse.
With premiers from all provinces and territories, after speaking with opposition leaders, the federal government has invoked the Emergencies Act to supplement provincial and territorial capacity to address the blockades and occupations. I want to be very clear.
Occupations.
The scope of these measures will be time limited, geographically targeted.
So they're saying this is a power for 30 days, and then they're going to name the specific geographic locations. But does anybody remember 15 days to stop the spread?
Yeah, I do.
What day are we on now? Are we at 300 yet? Or
we're like,
I mean, 6.
Yeah, 700 almost.
Yeah.
Right?
As well as reasonable and proportionate to the threats they are meant.
So reasonable and proportionate to the threats. And they're talking about freezing the accounts and blocking geographically people's travels for having wanted to do a peaceful protest.
Yeah.
So every move that the Canadian government, Trudeau, makes here, he's really starting to become, most people can see how ridiculous it is and how much of an overstep it is.
Yeah.
That's why so many people are calling him a dictator now.
Yeah, dictator. And you can see the woman on his right, our left, looking forward. She was like freaking out. Everyone in the chat was saying she like grabs her chest. She's like freaking out because what they're doing right here is an absolute dictatorship takeover where they have now the ability through the continuity of the government that they've set up here. And this is a big money thing. Right now, the cash is just going to flow into all these special task forces and who knows what else.
To address. The Emergencies Act will be used to strengthen and support law enforcement agencies at all levels across the country. This is about keeping Canadians safe.
Kidding me, Trudeau?
They're going to seize the assets of people that gave to the trucker convoy.
Look at the smile. If you go back and click, he literally, anybody that you guys need to know about duping delight, when someone is lying or saying something that's negative, they generally smile. Look at his face. This guy.
Safe. Protecting people's jobs and restoring confidence in our institutions.
Confidence in government? No, you're taking the confidence in government away right now.
He's ruined it. Yeah, we're at a crossroads here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so that's that clip, and let's see what it says here. So not all the articles, there's a bunch of articles talking about this emergency power, but not many of the articles are actually talking about what types of powers this is going to give them. So he says the police would be given more tools to imprison or find protesters and protect critical infrastructure. No. Mr. Trudeau's invoking of the Emergencies Act comes as demonstrations across Canada enter their third week. Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland said at Monday's news conference that banks would be able to, there's bad grammar here, but banks would be able to freeze personal accounts of anyone linked with the protests without any need for a court order. So this is one of the most shocking statements I've come across in this whole pandemic that's been going on for the last 2 years. This is pretty shocking.
Yeah, that's serious. Shutting off your funds? Wow, you can't eat anymore? You can't pay your bills?
Well, I mean, I just think about myself. If all of a sudden tomorrow I needed money, I went to use my debit card and it didn't work. And then I called the bank, and they said, well, sir, your account's been frozen. You don't have access to your money anymore. Things would get really, really serious. And so there's a group of people in Canada that are going to have that happen. Now, when that's going to happen, I don't know, but they didn't grab this power to not use it.
And this also we're pointing out is what could be the beginning of a much larger plan realm wide. This is just beginning here. This is where they're starting it, Jesuit Ottawa.
We're gonna talk about some of the nuances of what they can do with this. Also, vehicle insurance of anyone involved with the demonstrations can also be suspended.
Wow.
Ms. Freeland said that they were broadening Canada's terrorist financing rules to cover cryptocurrencies and crowdfunding platforms as part of the effort. So basically any way that you would try to finance something, as in pay for it, is going to be frozen. You can't do it. Here's that phrase, it's all about following the money, she said. So we talk about following the money as far as who's doing the evil things in the world. Well, now the evil people in the world are following the money of the people that want to resist them.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
It's crazy.
She spoke after hackers released details of what they said were 93,000 donations for the truckers, totaling 8.4 million.
Yeah.
So
we tracked it.
This is the worrisome thing, is that banks now, under this power, this authorization that Dictator Trudeau has authorized, these 93,000 people could wake up to finding out that their accounts are frozen. And that's a good chunk of people. And it's not just individuals, there's corporations that donated within here as well. And they were saying that it doesn't matter if you're an individual or a corporation, they can freeze the assets of anybody that's funding. So this is one of those measurables, right? Yeah. So,
well, and not only that, but they can. I lost my train of thought. Jerry brought something up about the 93 million miles to the sun. No, the sun is not 93 million miles away.
No,
but go ahead.
Let's see. So apparently this Emergencies Act was passed in 1988. Apparently Justin Trudeau is the first person to use this, and so this sort of brings up a little bit of a quandary, because there's so many articles saying that his dad was the first person. So his dad actually invoked a Emergency War Act, right? It wasn't this act that was passed in 1988, but it's the basic full spectrum, full dictatorial controls, right? So they're like father, like son. Whether or not it's his real father or just a fake father, we don't know. But yeah, so this article has to do with what they can do with the new powers. Right, freezing bank accounts. That's serious. Is there anything you want to say about this article before we go on?
Well, just that everybody needs to be prepared, because they're now tracking and tracing everybody and looking for dissenters, right? So we need to be smart right now. We're going to get into more. Oh, and the hacker thing, I still don't even believe any of that. I don't buy it.
Well, the names were released in one way or the other. I saw a clip of some guy on TikTok actually claiming to be the hacker, and I don't buy it, but he was saying he did it. So here's where it now starts to involve people that didn't send money to the truckers.
I remember what I was going to say.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is that we've already heard reports of people having, bank issues already. Their banks are down right now.
Yeah, it's the link after this one. I'll show you. But so this is where it can affect more than just that 93,000 people that contributed to the protest. This is from today. Canadians have lost trust in the government and the banks and have begun pulling out their funds and life savings. So here's somebody's tweet. Let's go through this. Stopped by the bank on my way home to request all my funds, only leaving enough for direct withdrawals like insurance. I overheard the couple in front of me, Eastern European, requesting hundreds of thousands as well. Just between two clients, close to $500,000. Nice job, Junior. So, between this guy and the couple ahead, talking close to $500,000 that they wanted to pull out now. So what's happening now is the possibility of this setting off the bank runs. And the bank runs, well, so here's another headline. This is, I think, the one that you were thinking of. Canada's largest banks are all offline. Royal Bank, BMO Bank of Montreal, CIBC Bank. So this was a tweet. It says Canada's largest banks are all offline. These listed banks. Did Trudeau try to hack into their databases? Did the U.S. hack them first to stop it? What could cause all three to crash on the same day, hours after Trudeau's expropriation order?
Expropriation? They've turned them off so that people can't pull their money out right now because they're making moves. It's obvious. They didn't hack. Oh, yeah. People now have the ability to hack things that are unhackable. The bank is unhackable, people. Come on.
Yeah, so it's
ridiculous.
It is the bank runs that it could affect all of us, and that's not just Canada. So as soon as they start to fall, they start to go like dominoes. And so I had to look this up. I knew that the Great Depression was late 20s, early 30s, but I wanted to know more in depth because I figured that they probably have some sort of pattern put in place through, because they do it. They just recycle it over and over. So when doing a search for, let me bring this down so that you can see it. What were the years of the Great Depression? Right? It says August 29th through March 33rd. And over here, a little bit more details. It says the Great Depression was a severe worldwide economic depression that took place most during the 1930s, beginning in the United States. The timing of the Great Depression varied around the world. In most countries, it started in 1929 and lasted until the late 1930s. But here they give a time period of 43 months. So they're saying August to March. And if you were to go from late August to March, you would have 42 months. And 42 months is 3.5 years. It's biblical. So I think that is what they probably had in mind, that they had 42 months. They just, because it varied across the world. They didn't want to say exactly 42 months, but very close. So we've got patterns being fulfilled. And then, so with the Great Depression, one of the things, the stock market crashed, but it was the banking panics that really did things in. And so let's go through bank runs just a little bit in the history of what took place. The U.S. appeared to be poised for economic recovery following the stock market crash of 1929, until a series of bank panics in the fall of 1930 turned the recovery into the beginning of the Great Depression. So this article goes and talks about there was 8,000 commercial banks that belonged to the Federal Reserve System, but at that time nearly 16,000 did not. So guess what happened to the ones that didn't, everybody? They didn't get bailed out, right? Some of them got bought up, and conglomerated, but a lot of these banks didn't get bailed out. So they talk about what was sort of leading into it with the way they were dealing with who's the money being on checking balance sheets and stuff like that. But let's see here. So the ability to mobilize bank reserves, I think this would probably parallel to this time. So what happens when those two couple walk into a bank and request $500,000 and they want it? They want to take it out of the bank. So the bank's got to, if they want it in cash, they don't have $500,000 just sitting there. So they have to send to their reserve bank, and then they got to ship the money over. And now imagine every couple people coming in were asking for $500,000.
Yeah, so, it's a problem. They don't even have that money in circulation, right? It's all digitized.
Right. So let's sort of go through this a little bit. Another problem was the inability to mobilize bank reserves in times of crisis. Non-member banks kept a portion of their reserves as cash in their vaults and the bulk of their reserves as deposits in correspondent banks in designated cities. Many, but not all, of the ultimate correspondents belonged to the Federal Reserve System. This reserve pyramid limited country banks' access to reserves during times of crisis. When a bank needed cash because its customers were panicking and withdrawing funds en masse, the bank had to turn to its correspondent, which might be faced with requests from many banks simultaneously or might be beset by depositor runs itself. The correspondent bank also might not have the funds on hand because its reserves consisted of checks in the mail rather than cash in its vault. If so, the correspondent would in turn have to request reserves from another correspondent bank. That bank, in turn, might not have reserves available or might not respond to the request. So these problems turned the collapse of Caldwell and Company into a painful financial event. Caldwell was a rapidly expanding conglomerate, blah, 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 blah. So this was like the first bank that started the dominoes going down. So what is happening now? Are people, have they lost faith in having their money in a bank in Canada? Is there a bunch of truthers in Canada that are worried that they're going to be labeled terrorists and have their money seized?
There's tons of people that are in fear right now, and I just want you guys to know that there's no need to have fear. We're all going to get through this, and even if we don't, we'll be rewarded for what we do for the truth. I'm going to continue to say that.
All right, so in no way are we giving any sort of financial advice. We're not financial people in that sense. What we are is we are researchers that are looking at historical events, and we're pattern analysts. And so if we look at the patterns that have taken place in history, what Trudeau has done right now is absolutely set up the perfect situation for a massive bank run. And so that would fall right into the New World Order agenda of going cashless, bringing in a new digital currency. They're already down the road of making sure that everybody's getting, things that they don't want put into their bodies. And so that all leads to the whole tracking system. So all these pieces are falling into place, and we just continually point out that this is all biblical. And so, like Ronnie was saying, the no fear thing, the more this happens, the closer we know we are to the beginning of the Great Tribulation. Now, we also know that not all of us are going to make it through that. Some of us will actually have to give up this life and then be resurrected. But there is a group that will actually make it through it without seeing death. We don't know who's who, but we have to begin getting close with moves like this taking place.
Well, basically, if you can discern the gray clouds in the sky and then it rains on you, we're telling you that this is exactly what we see here that was written about in the scriptures, almost perfectly. Through sorceries, the whole world is deceived. And when you do the etymology and the study on the word sorceries, you find out it means pharmakia. And the whole world right now is heavily under the cerveza bug jabola thing. And it's a problem. It's a huge problem that we're at. The other thing I wanted to touch upon before we close it up for an early night was basically that today. Go ahead.
Just to let you know, there's a bunch of headlines that we could just touch on the top of Drudge right now before we.
Yeah, not to go too long, but we were supposed to have World War III today. So we're a little bit let down that they didn't start the fake World War III. And we've got content for maybe next week. If we have time this weekend through creating content for next week, we'd like to do War is a Hoax. We'd like to show you guys some of the propaganda from World War I and World War II. That's just an update. I wanted to ask your opinion on that. We can scroll through some of these headlines too, brother, but I do want to have a short hangout tonight.
Yeah, totally. No, this won't take long. I just wanted to point out, so we had articles from 2 days ago, from 1 day ago, and now this is the cover of Drudge right now. So I just wanted to point out that this whole top section right now is all about financial collapse.
Quantitative easing, right? That's the other thing we've been run into is when the cerveza bug thing started, they put like $12 trillion into the economy to save everybody that were in the stocks. Now, what are they going to do? Are they going to put another $12 trillion into the banks?
Yeah, so just the top headline: Fed still pumping $9 trillion and counting. That sounds like an underinflated number right there. And then the next headline: and still no interest rate increase.
Wow, no usury.
Yeah, so they say that they raise the interest rates in order to curb inflation. So look at the next headline: powerless against runaway inflation. Right, so they are pumping, they are not raising interest rates, and what is the result of that? Runaway inflation. But they say that they're powerless against it. So what they've done is they've finally gotten themselves into a position where if they raise the interest rates, nobody could pay the interest on the money, because now all of a sudden you're up to $30 trillion supposedly that the United States people owe the Federal Reserve. So then the next headline, this Munger says, this is the way democracies die. And so if we look at like an article like this, it's being outlined that the inflation can be the way democracies die. And it goes in to talk about Adolf Hitler. It talks about the Roman Empire, right? The whole Roman Empire collapsed due to what they're saying is inflationary problems. So this is the type of stuff that inflation is at the highest rate in 40 years. They're saying 7.5%. This could be super underreported. So inflation is starting to take off. There's no way that this pumping, the first headline, could never be repaid. They can't raise interest rates, so they're just absolutely backed up against the wall. Then what's happening? Americans' credit card debt fastest in 22 years. So this is hurting the average American. All this inflation, going to the store and you can't afford to buy the meat anymore, right? So total U.S. household debt hit 15.8 trillion. Credit card balances alone hit 860 billion, up 52 billion in that same time frame. So this is the largest increase in 22 years. So people are hurting, and they're putting it on the cards, and they're in the same position that the Fed is in right now, right? But they get to make more money, and you don't. Then they're saying, here comes $7 gas. So we didn't get the headline of war today. And we got the headline of, people's assets being frozen or could be frozen in Canada. And still the headlines are talking about $7 gas already. And then if you go to the article, they're talking about the $150 gallon of gas coming up. And then the last one, government magical thinking risks it all. And so it's funny. Here's Forbes. This is supposed to be a big money information source. I'm gonna get rid of that. Yeah, Americans 30 trillion in debt. Trying to kill tabs here. So this is a nice mockery of what we're having to deal with. In the wizarding world of Washington, you can now see a multi-trillion-dollar federal spending bill costs $0. You can claim tax cuts pay for themselves. You can even say that the government doesn't need tax dollars to fund anything at all because it can just create money. And so this just mocks what the government is doing. And it does say that it is risking it all, and it really does look like we are at that point coming up here where the financial system's going to collapse. It's not just going to be runaway inflation, but it could be bank runs, and it could be loss of access to our assets. So once again, we are not advocates of violence in any sort of way. We warned people about the toilet paper in advance. A bunch of people benefited from that here by warning people in advance. If you're worried about a bank run and not having access to your funds, I highly recommend that you do something. But just pulling out some cash doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be protecting yourself, because with the governments the way they are these days, they could come out and say that there's some new virus and all the paper is infected and you have to turn in all the cash and they're going to burn it. So just having cash doesn't mean this is going to be better. We may just be coming into the thick of a financial failure in the world. So do what you can to protect yourself. Just think of what you think is the best solution for you. We can't tell you what to do. You know your own situation, but be thinking about the idea that in certain places, at least like in Canada, the ability to have access to your funds, especially if you're a truther, might be halted really soon. All right, so I think that's all we might be able to say on that topic tonight.
I was just getting trolled here with the cedar fever. We get the allergies, but I really enjoyed tonight. I'm glad we spent this time together. I know it's short, but I feel like it was very important to, stock up on toilet paper, get a little bit of extra food, maybe take some cash out and start to think about, backup plans for different things, especially if you're anti-government like we are. Just keep your heads up. Don't live in fear. Be prepared. That's all I can say.
Yeah, well, it's a great night. I guess Friday night, memes of the week. These just keep getting better and better. I've seen some of the memes for this week. I'm excited. I think it's going to step it up another notch from where
brought to you by aluminum foil.
And
thanks, brother. Thanks a lot for everything you do.
Yeah, you want to lead us out tonight?
Yeah, we are your top search for news and information regarding Christianity, simulation reality, and the flat earth proofs. Only YAHAWAHASHai News Network.
Smelling the air changed and all of the leaves changed. Did I change too? fall like we used to, fly like we used to, try like we used to. I'm here with you for one more night. Smile like we used to, get high like we used to, ride like we used to. Right here with you for one more night. If ever it felt right, careless and wild-eyed, coming undone. Parked on a hillside, stayed up till sunrise. You were the one. First feeling, when did we stop believing? We could turn back, we could find that magic that we lost. We don't fall like we used to, fly like we used to, try like we used to. I'm here with you for one more night. Smile like we used to, get high like we used to, ride like we used to. Right here with you for one more night. One more night.